Welcome back to Seen It Before, where we're probably going to say something stupid about your favorite movie because we've seen it all before. I'm Danny.
I'm Dan, and I forgot my sunglasses at sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens to the best of us, you know? You just forget things, especially sunglasses. And sushi is
sometimes people also forget to know when we're rolling and start.
Yeah, that just
yeah. That just happened. Yeah. Anyway, so today we are doing Stranger Things 4, Volume 1.
Yep.
So there's so much to unpack in this season. I mean, like, we got some breakout characters. We got all the groups divided up. We got, you know,
a new villain.
Yeah. We got
the Cult of Vecna.
Yep. We got a lot of different stuff to cover here, and like, not remembering it all right now is not helping me. So we gotta
gotta look at our notes, but you know,
look at our notes, but we'll get there eventually. But yeah, lots of stuff. Even little satanic panic we got going on in this season.
I was surprised about that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too surprised. It happened a lot in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s. Yeah. So let's just get right into this because we got so much to cover. So yeah. All right, we're back. Let's get into episode 1, the Hellfire Club.
The Hellfire Club. So they do D&D stuff. I'm not done with my song yet. The Hellfire Club.
You're done. Okay. That's a sick ass name, by the way. The Hellfire Club. Like.
Yeah, I liked it. It was ingenious.
Is that what you're gonna say? Okay. Let's start off about in the episode. So last we left off, it was like Will and 11 went to live with Joyce in California. That's last we left off.
Right.
And then we got that sneak preview of Hopper being alive in Russia somewhere.
Yeah, in 2019, we got that teaser.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I've known Hopper's been alive for 3 years. Ooh, big surprise. We see him. He's in the prison.
Yeah. And apparently this takes... It's between 6 months and a year, because I know they mentioned like a year at some points in the show, but then they've also mentioned 6 months. So like, when does this take place?
Well, I know specifically... at least episode 2 or 3 or whatever the episode where Elle gets in the fight with Jessica or Angela.
Angela, yes.
It's March 22nd, which sad story. In season 2, when Will is trying to when they're trying to get the mind flayer out of Will, Joyce says, do you know what March 22nd is? That's your birthday. And then in the new season, it's March 22nd. It's Will's birthday, and nobody remembers.
Oh,
and it's so sad.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a deep cut. Jeez.
Yeah. Because there's like a little like video camera that has the date, when they're recording the prank. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucks.
That's rude.
I mean, that's why he's been pissy the entire season. Who knows?
It's fair. So yeah, we're getting a little taste of how California's going and everything. Elle is in school now. Will and Elle are both in school.
Yeah.
And
it's not going well.
It's not going well for Elle.
Yeah.
Not going well at all. Well, Jane, whatever you want to go with.
I thought that was a good detail because, it's like kind of heartwarming because she chose the name Jane and then her last name's Hopper now. So I just thought it was like, oh, her two like things,
And in this first episode, she makes a diorama of her dad.
Yeah.
And how much her dad means to her hero, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then Angela's just a bitch.
Angela, this fucking bitch.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had a character that makes my blood boil more than Angela in this first episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, it's just like it's Mean Girls dialed up to 11, and like they even have like the jocks in on it. Like no, I went through high school. No kids were ever this cruel. I don't understand.
Well, also, the 80s is a different time. This is 86, right? So
yeah. So I guess where bullying wasn't like hey, it's not polite to do it. I never thought that would actually work, but it did. So.
Peak bullying. Then we get introduced to Max this season. Lucas is on the basketball team. Max wants nothing to do with Lucas, like at all.
Right. Was that kind of? I watched season 3, and I don't get too much like they were having like trouble. Must have been off screen in between.
I think they just kind of want. I don't think they wanted to really make themselves a thing, so they're kind of just on the rocks, basically.
Okay.
But basically, Lucas is Max's 13th reason. So
yeah, well, it's because Yeah. So she's going through a hard time because Billy died, and Lucas has kind of been shown to be just the biggest idiot when it comes to saying things, specifically to Max, where he's very insensitive to anything that's going on. He's very oblivious. So
like typical dude does.
Yeah, well, he's just like, dude, you're like a ghost. Like, you're not even here. And he's like, just say that, like, I care about you, and like stop,
Yeah.
We're here for you. We're your friends. But he doesn't exactly say that,
Yeah.
So he kind of pisses her off more.
And then Lucas wants to kind of expand his palette a little bit, get away from the D&D stuff with, Mike and Dustin.
Yeah.
So he wants to expand into the basketball team, and Mike and Dustin find this new cool kid, Eddie, who is their like masterclass D&D DM. So yeah, this man is electric.
Yeah, he's like that whole introduction scene with him in the lunchroom, and he's just like, what do you say? Like, I'm going to pass this year, and like I was full of shit last year when I said that,
He was held back a few years, I'm pretty sure, because that's why he looks older.
Yeah, so he's a senior now, right? And then all the kids that we know, like Mike and Dustin, they're freshmen, right?
I think it's the second half of freshman year, I want to say.
Okay.
Maybe sophomore year.
Because they go on spring break, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Jason, this new jock kid they introduced as well, he's just like trying to pick a fight with Eddie, where it's like, what are you doing, freak? And that kind of whole thing.
So I guess we have the generic kind of like bully versus nerd, or the jock versus the nerd kind of thing. And I give him credit. Eddie's kind of a jackass. So like he kind of antagonizes the jocks. So
yeah,
it sets up later conflict later on in the story when shit goes down.
Speaking of later on in the story, a little later in the day, or maybe a few days later, the last day before spring break, Angela starts taunting Elle again and all that stuff, and Elle tries to use her powers. It's like it's so embarrassing, man.
Yeah, it's like social suicide right there. Like, she should have known that.
She shouldn't have, because she grew up in a lab for 10 years.
No, I mean, she should have known that she didn't have powers.
Yeah, but again, she's so used to using
it's
them.
like subconscious, but like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Elle. You could have saved yourself. But
then poor Will is just like, oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, Will. So, okay, the thing about Will is that, we speculate, a lot of people are speculating that he could be gay. Mm-hmm. And there's some lines in season 1, especially one in season 3 where Mike says, it's not our fault that you don't like girls.
And then it's like a really long pause.
Yeah, it's like a pause, and but Noah Schnapp, the actor, he came out and saying that like the Duffer Brothers don't exactly hit on that point directly. So he says, like, I like it because it leaves it ambiguous. And there's actually a lot of controversy around it, because it's like, I guess a lot of people are tired of seeing queer-coded characters not be just queer characters. They're just not outright. 80s. I get it's the 80s, but Robin exists.
It's true. Robin does exist, but she also has more confidence than Will does.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm boiling it down. Like, my theory is that maybe Will's not even gay, and like he's... the Duffer Brothers recognize that his childhood was sort of stolen from him, because he gets abducted really young by the Demogorgon in season 1. Then he comes back and he's infected by the Mind Flayer. So, and that's why in season 3 he's kind of like, guys, can we just like stop worrying about girl problems, and can we just play D&D? Like, that's all I want to do. So like he part of his childhood was kind of like missing from him. And now he even said that in the interview, that he feels his character, or the characters around him, have matured more than Will has. And I kind of get that, but I definitely understand why people want Will to be gay, because it's representation, and like he's a good character, so it's not like it would be bad writing to, and it's already kind of in there. So
it's a good point. Then there's also this other character we're introduced to as well, Chrissy. It's Jason the Jock's girlfriend. So she ends up meeting up with Eddie for some reason in the middle of the forest, and he gives her shrooms, basically.
Yeah.
Or some kind of hallucinogenic drug. But he doesn't have them on him. So he ends up taking her back to his apartment, which coincidentally is right next to Max's trailer.
Yeah. But I do like the explanation that they did there, because once Billy died, second income was gone.
Yeah.
So the mom had to. Yeah,
they had to move.
So they have a kind of a backstory there.
Yeah, they thought about it, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, once they get into the trailer, so Chrissy's waiting in the living room. Eddie's just looking in his drawer or whatever. We see Chrissy walk to the bedroom and nothing happens. And then she starts... What did it happen again? It was something where...
Well, she
freaks out or something.
She just disappears, or like in her eyes, right? So
yeah, but like, isn't there another side of that? Like her actual vision, like what's happening? What happened in that part of the vision? Like where it actually happened to her, not when she's floating, but like...
Oh, I just know that she hears the clock and then something traumatizing happens.
Yeah.
Or reliving her memory. Something with her parents, I guess, with her mom specifically.
Yeah. It's some traumatic event, basically, that she's reliving. And then, in the real world, Eddie comes out of the room and sees her just kind of comatose, just like standing there. Nothing. And then he's like, hey, wake up.
Yeah.
And then she starts floating. And it's like, fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then
terrifying.
Crunch. Holy shit. The most graphic Stranger Things has ever gotten with that one scene. I was like, I was right next to the I was like, what is going on?
Just the body horror and the sound effects were perfect.
Kind of Ring-like.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Oh. Great way to end the episode, first of all.
Ended on a bang.
Oh, yeah. Vecna's a little out there. So let's move on to episode 2, Vecna's Curse. Jason and Lucas all kind of partied all night long with the rest of the jocks. So they're at the hamburger place 11 shows up to the beginning of season 1. It's a nice little callback.
Nice callback, yeah.
It's kind of like abandoned, but it's more of like a high school hangout spot now. Mm-hmm. So that was a very nice callback.
I'm surprised that, there's like those, like... I know a couple places where I grew up, there's like a couple like kind of known spots where you could go. Nothing like an entire like burger place though.
Yeah.
It was always like an abandoned RV or whatever, you know?
Like, dude, that'd be a sweet hangout.
Yeah, because it's got cable. Mm-hmm. It's got, it probably has booze in there, right?
Probably.
It's got. I saw they had a bunch of couches and like decorations on the wall and stuff. So it was kind of a cool little place.
We see Dustin's fucking mom again. She's just like, Dusty. It's like, oh my God, I forgot how annoying Dustin's mother is.
Yeah, oh my God. I remember in season 2, she was like, I remember like, I kind of felt bad for her because it's like, she was in season 2, if I remember correctly, she was like really obsessed with her cat, and then the cat got eaten by the Demodog.
Yeah,
and so Dustin like basically killed her like best friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's kind of rough. And then she's kind of in the background. I like the parents sort of have a presence, not really, but like Mrs. Wheeler, Mike's mom, she had kind of a short storyline with Billy in season 3 where like she was going to hook up with him. And then so she's kind of front and center as like our sort of POV adult character, but not really because she's barely in this season.
Yep. All right. And the next part of this is, in this episode, Mike goes to visit Elle for spring break in California.
Right.
So now they're splitting the group up even more. So basically the California crew is Jonathan, Will, Elle, Mike, and Jonathan's new friend, Argyle.
Yeah.
He is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic comedic relief. Oh, and then Joyce and Murray, I guess, right now. They're just spreading the group out more. So the Hawkins crew, then you got Nancy, Steve, Dustin, Max, Lucas. Yeah. So the main crew is basically in Hawkins still.
But I like how they have different dynamics now. Like we have different full-on groups of people that don't, or like half of like the original group is paired up with half of like the teenage group in California and in Hawkins. So it's like new dynamics that we haven't seen before. Like they did that in season 3 where like we really got a storyline with Steve, Robin, and Dustin, where that's where we really got to see them like their own storyline, where Dustin was kind of separated from the rest of the kids. Mm-hmm. And then so we had the kids group, and then we had the Joyce, Murray, and Hopper storyline in season 3. So they're doing that same thing in this one, and I'll get to the ups and downs of that because I think there's just too much going on. It's hard to like go from like one storyline where like they'll go from like kind of like to change up the scene. They'll like, we need to transport this character from one place to another. Mm-hmm. And it'll be like, let's cut to a different scene to kind of break up that kind of awkward thing there. But then they don't come back to that storyline until towards the end of the episode. It could be like 20 minutes to a half hour after we've long forgotten that was even a thing.
Yep.
So there's so much going on and so disconnected that like that's kind of the downside of this season. There's so much going on.
Coming back to Chrissy being dead in Eddie's apartment or Eddie's trailer, Eddie just leaves. He just up and leaves. Like, nope, fuck this. Leaves in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And as one would probably do at that point.
Yeah. How do you even explain that to the
you
cops?
don't. So the cops end up at the apartment, and then Max is like, "The fuck is this?"
Yeah, she sees her dead body like in the thing.
Yeah, and then Nancy. Jeez, why do I want to say Natalie? Nancy.
Well, isn't that her name?
Natalia Dyer.
Yeah.
Close enough. Nancy, Natalia, whatever. Anyway, Nancy is working for the school paper still. School paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hawkins
whatever.
Post or whatever.
Yeah. So she's trying to get the inside scoop of what's going on. So she takes her friend Fred with them.
Oh, poor Fred.
Yeah, okay.
I forgot about Fred.
Yeah, so they go to the scene. It's like, oh, our friend Max lives here. Can we go, just check on her, yada, yada, yada. And the cop's like, okay, sure. But then
he starts having
Fred
this weird
starts hearing the clock. And then the officer, that was a pretty, vicious scene with the officer right there. He's just, going at Fred.
He was saying something that's like, you deserved what happened, or you didn't save him. So I guess Fred's friend, he got in a really bad car accident and he couldn't save his friend or something like that.
He was hanging out the side of the car and he could have saved him, but he didn't.
Oh, okay, that's what.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him hanging out the side of the car,
he was kind of crawling a little bit,
so
trying to get. Yeah,
could have saved him. That's the whole thing with Vecna is he feeds off trauma.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad they kind of they did that. My only we skipped over the very first scene in 1979, where the beginning where we get the beginning of Elle's flashback.
Yeah.
Where it looks like she kills everybody in the place.
Yeah.
So rough, and so that's where, spoiler alert, Vecna is born.
Yes, we'll get to that a little later.
The great sequence towards the end, the last episode, but.
Yeah, so they did a little de-aging of Millie Bobby Brown there, which it was done well enough.
Yeah. Well, it didn't take me out of it too much.
No. But yeah, Fred ends up walking off into the woods, seeing the clock again. Once you see the clock twice, it's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Because you're going to die. And he ends up walking through the woods into the road, middle of the road somewhere, and floats, snaps again.
Yeah.
And oh man, another brutal one. Boy, here goes. Bye bye, Fred.
Just that animation of however they do it. It looks kind of rubbery,
but it's still
kind of visceral.
It gets it gets the point across.
Yeah.
Elle was like, "Oh, I have friends here. I got friends. His name's Angela and some other people."
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. So she just seems. She wants to prove to Mike that she's doing good and all that stuff. Yeah,
because she would be more embarrassed if Mike knew that she was a loser. But I don't think he would. I think he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm a loser too." He even says, "I've been bullied my entire life. I get it. Making friends is hard, and I found a bunch of misfits. And so Elle just hasn't found that, or she's kind of defaulting.
Yeah, so they go to the roller rink with Will. So Will, Jane, Elle.
Yeah,
and,
I call her Elle.
Yeah, Elle and Mike. So ends up resulting in Elle talking to Angela, or Angela talking to Elle, Angela being a bitch again, whatever.
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, nerd."
And then Angela ends up taking her away to go skate with her. And for this, a
choreographed sequence of a prank.
Happens to be the most, well choreographed, awful thing to happen to a person.
Everyone creates a ring around Elle.
So the song is playing, and everyone's creating a ring around her, and
and then Mike was, if I was Mike, I would be beating the crap out of the
Mike
DJ.
Couldn't even get in there. Mike was trying to stop the song. Classic Mike.
Yeah.
Then after that, she gets a chocolate milkshake spilled on her, and she just gets knocked down. It's just so degrading, so humiliating, just awful.
Again, this is the day. This is Will's birthday. Mm-hmm. So nobody remembered. So I wonder how he feels. At least I'm not the one with the milkshake on me.
Yeah. Oh God! And then later on in this episode, Elle just has had enough at this point.
Yeah.
Takes off her roller skate and walks, Angela, and just wham, hits her
Whips
right
her
in the face with the roller skate.
She got what she deserved.
She got what she fucking deserved.
I mean,
oh my God.
She's never going to bully anybody else after that, you know?
Yeah. But again, I was talking with, our freaking collaborator, James, on this, and he's just like, yeah, the bullying in the season is just straight up crazy. Like, how unhinged does it have to be? Like,
I grew up, and I wasn't the most popular kid, but I wasn't like a nerd or like I wasn't bullied frequently.
Same.
Like, so like kids just aren't this way anymore.
Yeah, but
and like I can't attest to how it actually was in the 80s.
I mean,
but
it's just
apparently it was just like this, and people were very cruel.
Back to Hawkins for the end of this episode, that Dustin finds out that Eddie is hiding in a dude called Reefer Rick's boathouse. Reefer Rick. Oh my God. That's just one hell of a name. I love it. So that's gonna lead us to the next episode, the monster and the superhero. Unless you have anything else.
I mean, we're kind of skipping over a lot of Hopper storyline, which I know you're not a fan of.
No, we'll get to that.
So apparently Hopper's alive. He signs a letter to Joyce, signed Enzo. I'm kind of rewarded with that, just knowing that, because there's a lot of talk in season 3 of like them going on a date to Enzo's at 7. Oh, I'll pick you up. Oh no, I'll meet you there. It's a whole, like, they're kind of back and forth banter.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I recognize that. So I knew instantly that it was real, that it was Hopper, that this guy was cool. And then we get like the Hopper torture scenes where he's like, with the gas mask, he's like, basically choking.
That was graphic. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, they beat him with sticks and crap, and they just beat the crap out of him, basically. Try to get information. Who are you working for? The generic,
Yeah.
He's like, and Hopper's telling the truth. Like, I work for no one. Like, maybe like I work for my daughter who has psychic powers and a bunch of her friends. Like, that's it. Like, I work for the world to save the world from your upside downness. Yeah. So.
And is it revealed in this episode that he has the friend inside the jail, the guard, or is it the next episode?
I forget.
It's one of these.
I think we're just still seeing his backstory.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, kind of like, because I remember we go back from, it opens up with like Hopper like being exploded, then he gets captured by the Russians, and then then all the torture scenes. So I think we get that towards the end, maybe, which is played by the guy who plays Jack and Hagar in Game of Thrones. And I'm like, I recognized this dude the entire time, and I looked it up finally after we finished watching it.
Yeah, I think you said his name was Antonov or something like that.
I'm pretty sure it's Antonov.
I don't know. I couldn't find his name on IMDb, so I'm just gonna go with that. I couldn't even find the actor on IMDb for like what his name was in the show, so he wasn't like on any of it.
I know he's got a son named Mikhail.
Okay.
Because that's how he used him. And he's like, I wonder what Mikhail thinks about you being a bitch by fighting this Demogorgon, and then they get thrown out.
Okay.
I just remember.
All right. Anything else in this episode? Or are you good?
Let me see. I mean, I got a lot. You know me. I write tons of notes. I wrote, like, look, I'm not sure if you can see. These are my notes. Yeah, so that's like all 7 episodes. I wrote minimum like 2 pages for each one. So we get a little tease of Victor Creel in this episode. We hear about him. He murdered his wife and daughter, and then he got locked up in a mental institution.
Ended up gouging his eyes out.
Yeah, and we'll get to that later. I think it's like episode 5.
I think it's end of 4. End of
4,
5.
where they actually meet him.
That would be 5 then. Yeah. Anyway.
And it's played by a certain actor. Which
that is teased in the video store this as well.
Yes, so I noticed it. Yeah. I was like, "Hey, is that?" And you're like, "Yep." Yep. So, right. But yeah, episode 3.
All right, we're on to episode 3, the monster and the superhero. All right, the first note I have is imagine Joyce and Murray dating. Just imagine that for a second.
No, I don't want to. That's fucking gross.
Ale ends up going to jail.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, juvie.
You would have never seen that like in like a regular 80s comedy. No. Or like 80s movie, but she gets arrested for assault. I'm like, realistic, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So then everybody's trying to get her out, but Joyce and Murray have gone to Alaska because they found out the only way to get there is meet a guy named Yuri in Alaska.
Yeah, so, Yuri's fish and fly.
And they have to bring like $40,000 or something like that to Alaska.
So they empty out Hopper's entire bank account or savings account for Elle to go to college to save his life, which justifiable. I understand that. And then, do they? I think he betrays him at the end of this episode, where he's like,
I don't know if they meet him in this episode.
Oh, they don't. Oops. But yeah. So they go off to Alaska to meet the guy to fly the plane to Russia to the Russian prison to get Hopper and the guard, and that's the plan. And so I'm noticing just talking about it, kind of looking back. I understand there's so much ground to cover. But especially later on, specifically with Hopper's story, there's so much that they could have just cut out or condensed or whatever,
Yep.
So, then we start to see that kind of conflicting storylines here because they don't exactly jive together. It's sort of a Game of Thrones situation where it's so different terrains and different storylines that aren't connected and I wasn't. I'm not saying it's bad. I just wasn't expecting it to be that disconnected compared to late or earlier seasons.
Yep. I also believe in this episode, Max starts getting the symptoms of the Vecna and hearing the clock and everything.
Well, yeah, throughout.
Towards the end of this season, she's had the headaches that they end up revealing in the next episode are all relative symptoms through all of the patients, all the people who have died, victims.
The patients.
So that's something to keep our eye on a little bit. But at this point, Hopper is trying to escape. Antonov is helping him out, but he's getting this hammer drilled into his ankle. How is he able to fucking walk? That is brutal. There's no
barely. Dude, I don't. That's all I can say.
Dude, that's the biggest plot hole for me so far in this season.
Yeah, it's how can Hopper?
How is he able to hop his way onto the snowmobile at one point? Anyway, it's just how.
I don't know.
It bothers me so much.
Yeah,
anyway,
I get it.
Then I wrote a note. Oh, what about Nancy and Robin? Could they be a thing at some point? Because I think Robin's becoming the new Barb at this point. Because Nancy,
maybe her personality is far from Barb.
Well, yeah, but Nancy's best friend.
She fulfills the best friend role. Yeah,
she's becoming her Barb.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if they want to go down that route, fine.
Yeah,
there's but I don't think they're going down that route because Nancy's always kind of struggled between Jonathan and Steve.
And that's another factor that's happened here because Jonathan was supposed to come see Nancy for spring break, and he didn't. And Nancy's just kind of she's kind of fed up at this point. She's like, what are we doing? Right. She's just...
But you're also forgetting the monologue that Jonathan has with Argyle when they're golfing or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I want to go to the California Community College instead of Emerson with Nancy, because Jonathan seems I never noticed it, but I guess Jonathan feels like he's just following Nancy's lead, and he's not really making any decisions for himself. And I totally get that. Dude, you got to make your own decisions. So maybe it's not really going about it the right way, just kind of ghosting her and being more distant. You should break things off clean, But that's his side.
We're basically saying they're not meant to be together like everybody's thought they should be.
Yeah. The actors, though, they're actually a real couple.
They are.
And I've seen a lot of cute pictures of them. They look cool.
Now back to Jason, the Jocks, and Lucas. They end up confronting someone, and Lucas just ends up burning his bridges with Dustin and Mike at that point to try to stay with the cool kids.
Yeah.
But then he realizes pretty quickly that
they're going to try to kill Eddie.
They're going to try to kill Eddie. Oh boy. I can't be a part of this. I can't.
It's funny because I watched a TikTok where this guy said that Lucas basically just switched out his old friend group for a new friend group. They're the same people. You got the one that looks like Dustin. You got the.
Oh.
I mean, he said he said like the Lucas character, because obvious reasons, because the other kid's black, or Patrick.
Patrick, yeah.
And the main guy, Jason, I think is his name.
Jason, yeah.
He's obsessed with getting revenge for his kind of like interest or love for this girl that that he just met. So
Mike.
sounds like Mike in season 1. Like, Elle is special. She has telekinetic powers. Let's do all this shit for her. So it's interesting.
It's a nice parallel there.
Yeah. Paul Reiser's back right in the beginning.
Oh yeah, Paul Reiser. I forgot about that.
And we kind of have like, and this is like the kind of like self-indulgence kind of thing where like, we have a very ancillary plot involving these rivaling government agencies. We got the Paul Reiser, like the Hawkins Lab guys, and then versus the military guy, the general or whatever his name is. And then we see that later on with the shootout in California at their house. So we get kind of a tension there, and then Paul Reiser kind of sets off to go find Elle to save the world.
Yeah. Basically, he's like, oh shit, this isn't going to be good. So he needs to get his ass back in gear.
Yeah. And then what else happens? She gets arrested. Yeah, this is like what I was just saying, like, at this point in the show, I didn't feel like the cult of Vecna was like part of the Upside Down, which now I know that's completely wrong because he's literally like the originator of it. But like I didn't understand why he's attacking now, and I still don't really understand why he wasn't like really around in the first 3 seasons. Why did he lay low this entire time? But that's why it feels a little tacked on. But I know they had a lot of time to develop this character, so like I'm sure the story's good enough to justify it being attached to the rest of the show, if that makes sense. But like Joyce and Murray's thing relates to events last season, and a little bit of the supernatural, because the Russians were trying to open up the gate in season 3, and then now they're looking for Hopper, who's captured by the Russians. So that storyline makes more sense right now in this, when I was watching this, instead of like what's happening in California, So, and California seems disconnected a lot from the rest of the story. So it's like, I almost wonder if they could have not moved the buyers out to California and kept them in Hawkins and still had these different storylines. I wonder if that would be possible.
I don't know.
Because you wouldn't have to have Mike across the country away from the gang,
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. It's kind of a lot that happened in this episode, but kind of not really. Again, it's a lot of exposition, I think, in this episode, just kind of setting up where the rest of the season's going to go. But the next episode, moving on to Dear Billy, episode 4.
Yes.
So it starts off with, again, Max now is kind of getting the symptoms of all the Vecna victims at this point. So, and she finds out, she's like, oh, they all went to Miss Kelly, the therapist in the at the school.
Yeah,
like,
that's where we had
headaches and everything. It's like, that got me thinking. I'm like, she could be Vecna.
Yeah, we're like,
I'm just trying to think, like, who's going to be Vecna?
Yeah,
like,
we're connecting.
It's got to be somebody that we've met already, and it's like, interesting.
Which technically, no, at this point we haven't.
No. Well,
until
we have.
Until we get the flashback for the Creel house.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's when we first meet him, but
okay.
Yeah.
Then I have okay, so Yuri. This is where it happens in this episode where Yuri turns his back and kind of drugs Joyce and Marie.
Yeah.
So basically Yuri wants to keep the money for himself and just be like, haha, screw you, whatever. Do whatever the Russians want with you. But that incites in a fight on a plane, which I don't remember if that's
the bad fight. I hated that fight.
I don't remember if that's in this episode or the next episode, but it's around somewhere in these episodes. The plane fight scene where Joyce and Murray,
where she shoots a fucking hole in the windshield of the plane.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing?
And then Murray's doing his karate bits. And listen, Murray and Joyce are just far from my favorite characters.
Yeah.
They're good. They're okay characters, just
Yeah.
written. But I just there's so many more interesting people to watch, and like that was the same thing for last season too. I just didn't like anything that they were doing. And like I think Joyce worked a lot better in season 1, where I I don't want her just to be the grieving mother the whole time, but she was actively involved in the plot with the kids, and now she's kind of off doing her own thing with Hopper. You know, and I want to see more of her part of, like, it doesn't feel like she's part of the show. You know, even though that plot line is, I explained it earlier, but
yeah. Also in this, related to that, Hopper does escape in this episode, so it's a pretty decent sequence.
Well, this was the episode they were originally going to stop at for the first part, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know if they ever had that plan. That's what we thought. Since it's 9 episodes, you'd stop at either 4 or 5. But they didn't end up doing that. So,
well, the end of this episode definitely very much has like a climax cliffhanger
it
sort
does,
of thing.
But yeah, so Hopper ends up escaping, killing a guard, and then setting a shed on. Fucking explodes with dynamite.
Yeah, I thought that was
pretty dope.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty smart of him.
Yeah, I still don't know how he could walk.
He walked barefoot in the freezing snow and somehow
And with a fucking broken ass ankle.
Oh, I forgot about the broken ankle. Yeah,
like, it's so.
Yeah, it's a little bit unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then back to Hawkins, where we get to meet Robert Englund.
Yeah, Victor Creel.
Victor Creel.
Robert Englund himself. Freddy Krueger is in this show, and I love that.
So Nancy and Robin kind of just weasel their way in, saying the students, they want to see him and talk to him about whatever. And they end up doing that.
So there's this part of the whole like meandering kind of stretching time, I think, where they have a lot of going back and forth between the doctor who doesn't want to let them in. They have to go through like the kind of the beats, the motions of trying to get to him. I wish that part was kind of condensed a little bit. And there's a lot of other instances where in this season where they should have done that, I think. But we get to see Victor Creel's backstory, because for the first 4 episodes, I'm like, who's this Victor Creel? I want to know about him. Is he Robert Englund? And so I wanted to know all about him because I'm a sucker for backstory.
At Joyce's house with Will, Mike, and Jonathan. Yeah, and I guess, well, no, Argyle's not there, but
Argyle.
Yeah, but they get some of these guards to protect them, just kind of like keep an eye on them so they don't leave. And good thing they were there, because there's a fucking storm of a scene where they had to escape the house.
Yeah,
all these guards coming in trying to shoot them up. It was wild. That was one of my favorite scenes of the whole.
Well, yeah, because it was so jarring. It's just like,
oh,
they're here, and like I didn't even initially know what was who these guys were. They're just like, so like they're being watched by the lab.
Yes,
and how I said in the beginning of the 3rd episode, we get Paul Reiser kind of going up against the government agent general guy. So then that's his guys. So there's like 3 entities that like are in custody of L or looking for L.
Yeah.
There's like just the regular police, then there's the general guy, and then there's the Hawkins guys. Luckily, the Hawkins people get them, so that's good, or get her. But
oh my God, yeah, and then same time, yeah, Elle is escaping with Paul Reiser's character, going to a remote base in Utah. Wait, no, somewhere in the middle of the desert. They're going somewhere in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not
Utah is
important.
where Susie is.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I'm glad that she's in this more in this season. She gets a scene.
So Hopper makes it to the church that he's supposed to be safe in. Finds a lot of peanut butter and just starts eating peanut butter straight from the jar like a stud.
Yeah, and like I realized, and there was a kind of a nice callback, because we find out that Yuri is the importer or the smuggler for the peanut butter, and then we find out later when they get to the church, or when Joyce and Murray get to the church, like he mentions like, oh, someone's been in my peanut butter. Yeah, it was Hopper. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and so all the peanut butter. Then he gets, obviously when Yuri sold them out, he ended up telling that the prison where Hopper is, and he gets taken back. And the guard also, who was on the phone with him, also gets taken at the same time.
Yeah,
Antonov. So they're just kind of off. They're gone.
Yeah, they're screwed.
Yeah.
And literally, I wrote in my notes, I like Yuri like right when he's introduced because he's like kind of funny, and then it's like I don't like Yuri anymore at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Then we get some of the Creel backstory. We get Victor Creel's story of what happened in that house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they move in. They start experiencing some
supernatural ghosts.
things. The wife dies first. Then, at one point, the father's trying to get both the kids out, and
then he puts Victor gets put into a trance, and then something
he does get put into a trance. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Then something about music pulls him back out.
Yes.
And then off screen, the daughter's killed.
The daughter's dead, and the son is knocked out. Right. So then, that was basically the whole backstory of that the Creel house. This happened in the late 50s, I believe, like 59, I want to say.
Yeah,
something like that.
It was after. Did you say after the Korean War that he was in?
It was one of those wars. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that would line up if it was the Korean War.
Yeah, so that moves that story along a little bit. But now, so the A story of this one, the whole thing that Dear Billy is about, is Max knows if she dies, she has so many things left to say to people she cares about. So she writes them all notes and gives all of them as precaution to each of the people, like Dustin, Lucas, her mother, etc. And she has one for Billy as well.
And then she reads it.
Well, we're not there
grave,
yet.
Right?
We're not there yet.
Okay. There's one monologue where before she writes the notes that says she doesn't want to be reassured that everything will be okay because like her entire life apparently has been like it's just never been okay.
Trauma.
Yeah, trauma follows her. So especially with Billy, and I thought it was really good. So like it's always nice when you have like characters expressing themselves, like explaining where they're at emotionally, and even though if it's brief, but it's just like it encapsulates her character kind of in that moment, So I thought it was like you're really good on the writers to do that.
Yeah, and she also doesn't want anybody to see her as being vulnerable, though. So it makes it more of a challenge acting wise to kind of make that come off right. Yeah,
and Sadie Sink is great. I mean,
she's a great actress.
She was also in Fear Street 1978, and she nailed it there too. I think some of the most talented child actors are definitely in the show. I think I don't want to say ever, but like they match up with like all-time classic child actors, I think.
But yeah, so she ends up going back to her mother's to give her mother the note. And she sees her mother up back. It's not her mother.
No.
It ends up being Vecna.
It's Vecna.
Kind of. Yeah, she's in a trance. She's like, I'm coming for you or whatever.
Yeah.
And she snaps out of it and then gets back in the car.
Yeah, and she's a rare case to see the clock twice.
Yes.
And be confronted with Vecna twice without dying. So and a little bit of plot armor, but I'll give it to her.
Then they head to the cemetery.
Yes.
So that cemetery scene is probably my favorite scene of the whole season so far. So because we get her like reading the note she had to Billy in front of his grave and everything, because she knows that like they hated each other, but they were still family, and she was expressing it really well. Like her acting was just on point in the scene because she didn't want to cry. You could tell she didn't want to cry, but she ended up crying anyway, and it's just really well done. And then she ends up in the trance.
Yeah.
And Billy is there. We get the Billy cameo that we wanted.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it was always nice to see Dr. Montgomery.
I was so happy to see him. But yeah, he was intimidating as usual. And really well done. But yeah, then all the people in the car, so Steve, Dustin, and Lucas all noticed. They're like, she's been there a while. Let's go check on her.
So she's in it. Yeah, they find her in the trance.
She's in the trance. And so she ends up with Vecna in this like forest area. And then she ends up escaping deeper into Vecna's mind, I would say, or something like that, or his place of operation.
I'm not sure if that is technically the Upside Down or not. Where she is,
I don't think we're sure yet.
Yeah, I think it's some sort of it's some sort of dimension or whatever
inside the Upside Down or something like that.
Yeah, where it's like,
but it's all it's basically the Creel house. Just
it's the roof is all blown off and like it's like all like the structure of it is just gone. structure. So, and then this is so basically we get like the entire scene with running up the hill by Kate something.
It's Kate Bush.
Kate Bush, that's jumped to the top of the charts today.
Yeah, it's
people are loving that song.
The top 10 on iTunes as of today, May 31st.
I mean, it's a good song. I think it's a little overhyped just because it's Stranger Things. Oh my god! But it's a good song.
But that's music is the key. That's where they end up finding out. Music is the key to stopping Vecna from, killing you. Because she ended up floating at one point, and she's it's like, she's either gonna get powers or she's gonna fucking die.
Yeah, we saw it in the trailer. We're like, oh shit, she's in the air,
But like, we don't know what that. Obviously, we didn't know at that point what that was about.
But it was nice because like she posted on Instagram like when she was like up in the harness, and she's like big things coming or something like that. So I'm like, hey,
I think that's pretty much all the big important parts of this episode that I wrote down. I don't know what else you wrote down.
I mean, I just about that whole sequence where she's like kind of chained up against the pillar, and then she's like she fights like she sees like the whole where out of the whole dimension thing is where like the real life is, and just her kind of like running, and I just like that kind of
hill.
Running up the hill, but like the significance of that being her favorite song is like the lyrics or something to say like, something about switching places. If God took me and given you life or something like that. It's about Billy because she misses Billy so much. I'm like, I wonder what's your favorite song, but I mean, it definitely deserved because it's got a 9.6, I think, on IMDb.
Yeah, it's 9.6, 9.7. Yeah. It's up there. It's
greatly deserved, I think.
It's the best episode of the season. Yeah. To me, it's the best episode of the season.
Yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah.
So far. Moving on to episode 5, the Nina Project. All right. So we find out that the only way to have Elle get her powers back, which is why Paul Reiser's character is taking her to this destination in the first place, is because it's a program to help her get her powers back. And it's kind of got Area 51 vibes. The middle of the desert, there's just this door, this kind of like door opening. It's like,
I thought it was Area 51 for a second.
Yeah, we were like, oh, is this going to be Area 51? Because like we watched the first 4 episodes at once, and then we took a break for a few days. Then we watched the last 3.
Yeah.
So,
which I think that was the best way to do it, to finish off on episode 4, kind of give a breather, and then go back and do it. So
but then Elle gets down there, and who's waiting for her? Papa. Papa is back.
Brenner's alive.
He is alive. He's got a little scar in his face from I guess the Demogorgon didn't kill him after all.
Yeah, we still don't know how he survives. We haven't seen it. I'm skeptical that he would have survived the Demogorgon attack in season 1. I'm just because Elle killed literally his entire backup.
Yeah,
and he's the only one alive, and then the Demogorgon has never been known to. I don't know.
Palpatine clone.
If there's some shit like that, I don't know, man. But
oh man,
although that would be less horrible than Palpatine coming back because ruined Anakin's arc. Okay.
All right, moving up. Star Wars. So we also get this. So while she's there, she kind of the Nina Project is basically her water tank again. So she has to relive old memories to try to get her powers back. I don't really understand it totally 100%.
I think it's something about she has a web block,
She's got a web block.
She's got a block, and she has to relive her memories. It's kind of contrived. It's kind of just a writing thing. We have to kind of stall time to when she gets the powers back. We have to have her go through a character journey and stuff. So,
But
whatever.
All right. So then we cut to Russia. So Hopper, Antonov are in a cell together now. And Hopper has this really cool backstory about being in the Vietnam War. And the Agent Orange production is what he was a part of. And how all of his friends and everything had all of these all these effects on them, and their kids end up either being stillborn or other things, and that really makes sense for his daughter. And how she ended up having cancer and ended up dying when she was like 8 or 9. It's the same age Elle was when we met her.
Yep.
Oh, that was a rough backstory.
It adds more horrible reasoning to why his daughter died.
Tragic Hopper backstory. Oh my God.
And he caps it off with the perfect line: "Everyone I love, I hurt."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, dude,
really symbolizes his character right there.
Dark, man. Yeah. So it's like, these writers are finding a really good way to incorporate telling like the themes of each character and just having them just monologue about it. And it's great and it works. It's kind of like not Tarantino, but there's really good dialogue recently.
Yeah, we forgot to mention at the end of the last episode. So they end up escaping with Argyle in his van.
Oh yeah.
So they escape and they have a dude who's been shot in the back. He ends up dying. Okay, so they got to bury him in a junkyard. That's where we are now. So
That's a felony.
They buried him in the junkyard, and Argyle's like tripping. He's mad high, and he's just like,
I would be freaked the fuck. Even if I wasn't high, I'd be freaked the fuck out. Like I like how they didn't. You know how there's like the generic scene where like they have like, or like something's going on, something urgent's going on. Like they have to leave to go out of the house and they're getting chased. And the one person's like, "What? What's going on? Oh, he's got a gun." You know, so they do that, but it's not like over, overly done. It's not drawn out, and I like that. So, but yeah, Argyle is one of the top 5 characters in this show right now. Like, he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. So they end up finding a random phone booth in the middle of the fucking desert. Go figure.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Yeah, whatever. So they end up calling the one person they know to be able to help them find this, whatever the Nina project is. So this phone number. They had to find a phone number and find out what it is, because it's a computer. When they call the number, it's a computer.
Yeah, it's a fax machine, or a modem dial-up.
Yeah.
Right.
So they end up calling Susie. So Dustin's girlfriend, Susie, who lives in
Dusty
Utah. So they end up going to her house.
Yep. Which, good for her. She's in the movie. And
that's the last we see of them for this episode. So they're on their way to Susie.
Yeah, and that's what I meant, where like the California arc doesn't seem that too important to the rest of the story.
Yeah. And then we get some more Dustin and Steve commentary. I just love their dynamic every time.
Dustin
and Steve. Yeah, they're just great. So the jock Jason ends up finding out that Eddie is hiding. We've gotten off Eddie for a while right now, but So
he's basically hiding.
He's just in hiding.
He's just hiding in
the boathouse.
Yeah.
So Jason, the jock, finds out that he's there. Mm-hmm. So they go find him.
And then we get Patrick's name drop.
Yeah, Patrick.
So we don't understand who this character is. Oh no, what's gonna happen to him? Yep.
So Patrick, they always find Eddie. They look at the boathouse like, oh, that looks familiar. Maybe he's hiding in there. Yeah, and of course he isn't. He's like halfway through the lake, just on a boat.
They catch up to him fucking fast.
Jock Boy can swim. He can swim.
Yeah. Like, are you sure he's not on the swim team?
Yeah, seriously. Well, they never said.
He could. I mean, he probably does a bunch of sports.
He might be, yeah. But at that point, Patrick had been hearing the clock at that point.
Yeah.
So, naturally.
He gonna die.
He goes underwater, but then shoots right up, in midair. Then Jason's like,
yeah, it's like, something's going on, so but this normally, for any normal person, he would realize Eddie's not the killer, but no, this is a fucking idiot jock, and he's like, Satanism.
Yeah, well, that's the next episode.
So he's like some fucking calls upon Satan, which I guess is fine, because the Satanism was kind of big in the 80s, right?
Yeah, we'll get into that. There's and the other crew in Hawkins is now in the Creel house still, so they actually go visit the Creel house, and it's it's creepy as shit.
What happens at the Creel house? They don't really find.
They don't
much.
find anything, but they find out that.
I I don't know what they.
I don't know, all I know is they had the really cool tilt from the them in the attic to Vecna in the attic as well at the same time.
Yeah,
that was a really cool tilt. The cinematography's on point in this season.
Yeah, a lot of like upside down shots.
A lot of upside down shots, really leaning into that, but it's well done. Yeah, really well done.
I think my favorite shot is the one. I think it's in the last episode when they're trying to get out of the upside down.
Yeah,
and you can see into the real world, into the upside down. They're all upside down and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, and. So back to 11, I guess she goes through all these tests and stuff. She ends up reliving the same thing over and over again. Just every room she went in, it was the rainbow room. And it's the same memory of, of the very first episode where it's like she ended up destroying everything, whatever. And Papa's like, what did you do? That whole scene. She ends up reliving that over and over and over again this episode. It's like, oh my God, just Jesus.
Tragic backstory. And we get kind of so the whole purpose of her doing that living through these memories is to get her powers back. And I'm a little confused because it's like at the end of this episode, it looks like she gets them back where she makes all the guard, like she makes a break for it in the real world. And then she gets caught by the guards and she makes them all explode or whatever.
Yeah, the trailer shot. Yeah.
What causes that? Like she only has like a little bit of juice left.
I don't know. It's for the trailer. It's the trailer shot.
It's for the trailer. Yeah. So then she can't hurt Papa. So Papa, is he immune to her or
Yeah, she's got a soft spot for him, and she can't say no. Still.
Yeah, true. She didn't kill him in the first season.
Yeah.
But he's kind of awful, and she kind of snaps everyone's necks.
Yeah, and then back to Hopper for a sec. He start teasing up that he's going to be fighting this Demogorgon, and in this episode, and it's like, okay, cool, he's going to fight it, cool. Nope.
No.
Moving on to episode 6, unless you got anything else for this episode.
It's just a series of Hopper almost fighting the Demogorgon, then not. And then almost, and then not, and then it was like,
yep, because we get it again in episode 6, teasing it again.
Oh my God, and, dude, they had to chill out with the whole teasing the fucking fight. It was annoying the shit out of me.
Yeah. So on episode 6, the dive. So we end up at Susie's house. The California crew arrives in Utah to Susie's house. What the fuck kind of house is this? Because she's got a lot of siblings, and they're all crazy.
Yeah. What the? I don't even know how to describe it. It's like
Cornelius shoots him with a fucking rubber arrow.
He's acting out Lord of the Flies or some shit.
What was that? And then there's this other girl who's choking on the floor. The other dude's just filming it.
He's got a painted on mustache and everything.
What is going on?
Great lighting. And I'm just
and then
it was fucking weird. Is there a daycare?
The older sister Eden comes in, and then Argyle's like, I will do anything for you.
Oh yeah. I like that, kind of just to lighten it up, they have a little not a storyline, but a scene where Argyle and Eden go smoke in the car.
He's smoke in the car.
Like the garden.
Like the garden. We also find out the Russians are training these Demogorgons for a war basically. So
right.
They're feeding
that's what they think.
Yes,
I think they're almost. I think Hopper narrows it down to the Russians are afraid of the Demogorgon. They don't know what the fuck to do, so they're trying to make allies with it by feeding them or feeding the Demogorgon people,
nutrient-rich people. So they fatten them up for them, basically.
Yeah, so he says, enjoy your last meal or enjoy the food, get fat and plump. This is your last meal.
Yep. Know? And then Hopper's just drinking his ass away. He's like, you know what they're doing, right?
He's like, yeah, I know. I've been through this before.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And so he knows the weakness is fire. And we get so close to fighting the Demogorgon. And then he's like, I'm going to start a fight with Antonov, make fun of his son.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a distraction.
And they get thrown in jail. And this is the thing. So they get in a fight, and then it cuts to a different scene for a half hour, and then it cuts back to them, and then they're finally brought to the jail cell. It took way too long, way too long to get back to that, and they didn't have to do that.
No,
there would have been. I'm pretty sure there's a way you could edit this stuff without without making it feel so like I forgot that Hopper was a thing by that time, you know?
Yeah. And while that's going on, we go to a meeting that the police are holding. So it's like a community type meeting. And the sheriff's just like, oh, calm down, everybody, whatever. Then Jason comes in and is like, put all this satanic panic stuff in like,
yeah.
Like,
in
oh,
the
these
town
kids are
and
part of
stuff.
D&D. It's all a lie,
Yeah.
whatever. Back in the 80s, like,
I like how they're bringing that up though, because
yeah, because I have an article pulled up on that right now. There's somebody created the BAD, BADD, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons. So
God,
yeah, just
People piss me off.
role-playing games are recruitment tools for the satanic cults.
sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and the same thing with like heavy metal music. It's that whole time frame that's like, oh, making our kids rebel.
Yeah. First it was comic books, then it was D&D, then it was video games, then it was metal music, then video games and movies, and
Yeah.
like it's always been proven wrong.
Yep.
They don't cause any kind of violence, you know, to nearly the degree that they're trying to claim. It's so stupid. I hate that stupid narrative, but whatever.
Yeah, it's part of the times.
yeah, they included it,
the
so that's
early
good.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that they brought that up.
I'm surprised they haven't talked about AIDS yet. That was big in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's a little touchy though.
But yeah, so the parents of everybody, Lucas's parents, Dustin's mom, and Mike's parents are all just like, shit. They're leaning into it. So they're like, where are our kids? Where are they? They're not around. And where they are is kind of, they went to look for Eddie. They find him at Skull Rock or something like that.
Yeah, because so the jocks chase after he's escaping on the boat. Yeah, he's like, I'm at Skull Rock. Come meet me, and he's like, okay, we'll be right there. And then they meet up.
Yeah, so they meet up. Dustin's trying to go one way, Steve's going the other. So Steve brings them to the correct place.
Right.
And yeah, so they meet up. Everybody gets hunky dory, whatever. And
The gang's all back together again.
then
yeah.
Dustin's like, this is still wrong because his compass is going haywire and it's leading in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Which is the middle of Lover's Lake, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, so that's where the gate was open where Patrick died. Mm-hmm. So
they had to go back there.
yeah.
And then, so Nancy, Eddie, Robin, and Steve end up going out in the middle of the lake trying to see what's going on. And then Steve takes his shirt off.
and then we have a moment.
So hairy.
And then I like that one shot of like, you know, Max is like,
Max
let
taking
me
the
see. And there's just like a 10-second shot of her going like this.
And Luke's just like,
She's like, are you serious right now?
yeah, so Steve ends up in the upside down. He went through the gate.
Yeah.
Ends up being attacked by all the Demobats. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Like brutally attacked by the Demobats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he starts getting choked, and I wrote in my notes, I'm like, no, Steve, don't take Steve. Oh, so that's where that storyline ends.
Yeah.
Where they're hiding from the police, and like, you know, and they all end up in the upside down by the end of the episode. But we also skipped over Elle's storyline where she's kind of making enemies in the flashbacks. She's making enemies with her
The other numbers.
Yeah. So they beat the shit out of her after she wins a test or whatever to get an hour of free time in the Rainbow Room. Like, are you that petty? Really? Number 2? Come on.
Yeah.
So
She's pretty petty.
So I thought it was kind of
bullies.
Cool. I thought it was like
jeez.
it was kind of cool to see a telekinesis fight though. You know, and then we'll get a better one later on. But.
Yeah, that was a little weird. But you keep going because I forgot what you're
something small that I noticed was that Lucas and Max kind of have a mini arc. You know, because we get a glimpse into their relationship. You know, they don't like each other at the end or at the beginning. You know, they're kind of on the rocks. And then over time, they become more sympathetic towards Max specifically because they realize that, oh, you're really going through some shit right now. And then Lucas finally says, apologizes, like, I'm sorry, I wasn't really there as much as I could have been. Mm-hmm. You know, when Billy died. You know, because he could have, So, and then he was just more concerned with his social status at school. So, it's kind of cool to see him, go fulfill a character arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for episode 6.
Well, the fight in the plane, we talked about it a little earlier. That happened in this. They end up landing very close to that church. Ironically, it's like very convenient. Near there.
What are you gonna do? It becomes plot. Yeah.
Yeah. So they go there and they basically end up saying, "All right, Yuri, you're gonna be Murray, Yuri."
Yeah.
So
he looked a little pretty close to Yuri.
Yeah, Murray did. He's already speaks enough Russian, so
yeah. There you go.
Their plan for here is to go into the prison and rescue Hop. That's basically where their episode part ends.
Great plan, guys.
Yeah.
It's totally going to work out just the way you planned.
You got anything else for this episode?
I just thought it was a little unbelievable that the sheriff would be listing off the gruesome details and the suspect of who killed Patrick.
Nowadays, yes, but maybe different in the 80s, man. Satanic panic. Blame it on that.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know.
But yeah, that's all I got for episode 6. Let's get to the finale of part 1.
Episode 7, The Massacre at Hawkins Lab.
We finally get to know what happened.
Yes. So we've been introduced to this guy who has been he's an orderly that's been helping out 11 with her problem with 2 and everything, and explaining why Papa is the way he is and whatever.
Yeah.
So
he basically explains that she's special and
she asked oh, where's 1? And then he has this whole thing about it was a bad tragic story about 1 and everything.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really go into it.
Which by the end of the episode, we kind of suspected.
We had theories. Yeah. There were a lot of theories we had about who. Yeah.
This is the first time that ever one of my theories was actually correct in a show. So I'm like, hey, good for me.
Yeah. Oh, then so when after that fight with in the Rainbow Room, the little fight that 2 had with 11, and they ganged up on her, Papa is like, all right, who did this or whatever? Who messed with 11?
And then 2 is just a dumbass.
2 doesn't. He's not scared. At
maybe
all.
She fell.
Yeah, he's being a total dickbag.
Yeah. So Brenner's just collar him, shock him, boom, torture him.
Basically, now the orderly's he's gonna try to kill you. And Papa's not going to stop it, basically.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So going away from 11 there for a second, going back to Steve, Eddie, Robin, and Nancy in the Upside Down. Eddie the love guru over here being oh, she didn't hesitate to jump off that boat and go through the gate to find you.
Yeah.
Nancy didn't hesitate. That's a true sign of true love.
There we go.
It's oh, Eddie.
They're kind of teasing that Nancy and Steve might get back together, which, after being on the rocks with Jonathan, it'd be okay.
I'd be here for it.
Yeah,
poor Jonathan, but I think he'd be okay with it too, honestly.
Yeah. The show does a good job with juggling as many love storylines as it has. It's got 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's going to get even more. They're all becoming teenagers. They're all
yeah, it's
at
what
that
are you
point.
Gonna do?
So yeah,
but they're really good. So they're developing in pairs that I didn't really see coming. So I thought Nancy would be done with Steve from after the first season, and then she's with Jonathan. But it's to see that they're on the rocks and stuff. And then obviously I saw Hopper and Joyce coming, and then Elle and Mike obviously. So there's a lot there that they're able to kind of weave together, and it's energetic and it's easy to follow.
Yeah. Back in the real world, so after they all dive into the gate, Max and Lucas and Dustin are all still on the coast watching them. So they end up getting caught by the police and brought back to Mike's parents' house, right? I think. Or Lucas's
I don't know.
house?
I think
it's one of the houses.
I think it's Mike's because they steal the light bright from his sister.
Yeah, okay. So, they bring them back, and I guess they do a good way of showing that Nancy, Steve, Robin, and Eddie all go to Mike's house, and they have a good way of explaining how the light thing worked from the Upside Down.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That was really cool because
we just saw it in the first season that Will could just talk through the lights.
Yeah.
But I do have. Well, actually, no, never mind. I don't.
Yeah. So
I don't have
the regular lights, the chandelier starts growing brighter and Actually, Erica, Lucas's sister, noticed that. She's like,
Yeah.
that looks weird. We haven't really talked a lot about Erica, but we'll get to her in a little bit.
She's very small part in this.
We'll get to
She's
her a little
fucking awesome though.
Yeah. So Dustin is like, he's like going through like, Morse code and everything. It's like SOS. It's like, oh my God. They're in.
Yeah, they're in the upside down.
Yeah. So they get the light bright from Mike's sister, and it's really cool. Like, oh, let's draw letters on the light bright. That was so cool. I thought that was really well done.
I wonder how they did that, like, as an effect.
Yeah.
Like, did they have the camera in one spot and then have it take a snapshot of it on and off, and then use like a mask to paint the letters and stuff?
Maybe.
I don't know.
know.
It was really cool though.
Very,
I like how they
very
did it.
cool. Something that also was not as cool is back in Russia. So we finally get the Demogorgon fight that we've been hyped up for the last 2 episodes.
God. And it was okay.
It was not all it was meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was some pretty brutal kills for the Demogorgon.
It was like right off the bat, he's like, the Demogorgon's like fucking brutal, like bites that guy's head off and stuff, So we didn't get too much, I guess, hand to hand with Hopper. I would have liked a little more there, but it was pretty good. It was okay.
He couldn't light the lighter for the longest time. It's like,
yeah, gotta add suspense somehow, right?
It wasn't really that suspenseful, honestly.
Come on.
Yeah, but they end up going back into the Demogorgon's cage and leaving it out in the prison. So
Yeah.
they escaped.
At the other end, Joyce and
Murray
are fighting they got a gun on the warden, and they have him open up they have a fight scene in the thing, and they open up the gate.
So they all got back together. Joyce and Hopper finally got reunited,
Finally.
Oh, yeah.
7 episodes.
How cute. I don't care about the storyline. Oh, I know I wrote this. So I really think they shouldn't have shown that clip in 2019 of Hopper being alive. They should have totally kept it in the dark until you introduce him in like episode 5 and maybe have his story go along from there.
I would have liked that.
I would have liked that so much better because it would have moved his story along faster. Joyce and Murray, I don't think they needed to be there. That was just there for Hopper and Joyce. They could have found something else to do in this season. But I really don't think Hopper was needed. I really don't.
Yeah, he's very much the Daenerys of this show right now.
Yeah, at least as of right now. Again, there's still almost 4 hours left of content in 2 episodes that we have to watch starting July 1st.
Well, yeah, I hope that he's involved in the final battle somehow.
Yeah.
So that
Make
leaves
his
us
arc worth it.
Yeah, that leaves us 2 episodes to get him from Russia to
with Love
to Hawkins. Ha.
Okay. But yeah, that ends his arc for this part of the season. So
Yeah.
Going back to 11. So the orderly and her end up going down to like the vents or whatever, try to escape. 11 takes this little like tracker out of his neck or whatever it is. He says the tracker.
Was that so? I assume that was suppressing his powers, right? Somehow. Oh, I almost dropped my phone.
Yeah. So we find out that he is one.
Yeah. Surprise!
What? But it was kind of. I mean, that part was not a surprise. Like, oh, he's got to be one. But then, yeah. So they end up going upstairs again, and he gets to use his powers and stops the guards or whatever.
Yeah.
He says, 11, I'll be right back. So he runs off.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll skip back to.
And then we're
gonna skip back to
wait an hour to get back to that. And
yes.
Then
Back to the Upside Down crew. So they all find out that, we need to go back to one of the gates. So they find out the closest gate is Billy's trailer. So where Chrissy died. And that's how they're going to get back into the real world. So they go there. And the real world crew also meets them there. Dustin, Max, and Lucas.
Well, you're actually bypassing a scene where they go back to the Wheeler house to get guns to fight off the Demobats. And then they realize that the guns weren't there because they don't exist in the Upside Down yet because they're still in 1983, the date that Will disappeared. So that leaves, and we'll recontextualize it later on after this episode, but I'll get to that later. But so yeah, it's in 1983. So that leads me to believe that the Upside Down was created or frozen in time in 1983 for some reason, which we don't
know what
really
that
know
is
yet. Yeah,
that was a very interesting detail, and they're obviously going to keep going into detail about it. But I'm very interested in that storyline.
There was, I don't want to spoil anything for part 2. But there was a picture that Noah Schnapp posted on Instagram, and that he was in the harness, like that lifts you up in the air, like that. But we obviously in this season or in this first part, he wasn't.
That Sadie Sink was in, like that same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he wasn't being lifted up.
That could have just been them having fun though too.
Maybe. Yeah.
You never know.
Could be. Yeah.
But yeah, so they all get to there. They start going through. So. Eddie goes up, Robin goes up, and then Nancy tries to.
Yeah, Nancy tries to go up,
and then she gets to there and then ends up falling into the pool that Barb ended up in, and that was really cool. I was like, oh.
I think so that might be her like traumatic like tableau that he shows everyone. Barb. Or it could also mean that Vecna has been around since season 1, and he killed Barb.
To start the trauma.
Yeah. So that might be, because we don't actually see her get killed by the Demogorgon. We just assume, because that's the only character we know that could possibly kill her.
That's something I'll loop back to in a little bit.
Yeah.
But, ooh.
I don't know.
But yeah, so, Vecna ends up monologuing to her.
Your sufferer is almost at an end.
Yeah, whatever. Then at the same time, we go back to 11. So she ends up going to the room. He has this really long monologue. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, it's the whole sequence is his backstory. Just
explaining his backstory.
Yeah. And he killed out everybody in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like literally everyone.
He's the kid. He is Victor's kid.
Yes.
And he ended up showing that he ended up killing his mother and all that stuff because something. Yeah. And he killed his sister, and he had these powers. He was the first one with these powers. Well, maybe not the first person, but the first person we've seen that has the same powers of like 11 and everything.
Yeah. So I'll give him the pass that he's the originator. He just has the powers, but I thought that 11 was created by MK Ultra. All the experiments on her.
That was a rumor. That was never.
Okay.
It's inspired for sure by MK Ultra.
So was she just born naturally with her telekinesis powers, and like how does she get the powers, and how did they know?
She was experimented on.
She was experimented on.
She was taken from her mother.
Right, but did she naturally have an inclination towards those powers that we know of, or like
explained?
Okay, because I'm just trying to understand whether it's created.
I really don't know.
Do they take one's blood and inject it in her or something? I don't know.
So that's the same thing for all of them, though. Like, we don't really know. So he ends up in the care of Dr. Brenner, who ends up, making more of him. Basically clones, but not clones.
Yeah.
Sort of clones.
Basically trying to figure out what makes him tick.
And he just basically ends up...
Pisses him off, basically.
Pisses him off, so Brenner suppresses him and makes him just like a guard or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a orderly.
A couple plot holes. I don't understand why he wouldn't tell anyone that he's won. I don't understand what keeps him from keeping that secret.
Maybe Brenner doesn't want anything getting out. Maybe it's a Brenner thing.
No, it definitely is a Brenner thing, but what's stopping one from telling everyone, hey, I'm one?
Brenner, he gets the shock treatment from... remember he got shocked?
Yeah.
No, that stuff. He's probably still afraid of him, just like one is afraid of him.
Well, yeah, he puts the suppressor thing in him, but I don't know. I just see like, why did he wait so long to start a relationship with Elle to get her to take the tracker out? That's his whole goal.
Because he found out that Brenner is afraid of 11.
Okay, so she's more powerful. That she's the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of. I think it's that type of thing. But yeah, then we end up finding out that he indeed is Vecna as well, because 11 and him getting this battle, because one wanted her to join him, basically, and she's like, no.
Yeah, because she's good.
Yeah, and so they had this whole, battle, and 11 was holding her own. She fucking ends up dusting him. through the mirror, like pushing him into the upside down. That was really cool.
Yeah. So she definitely created the first portal or the first gate into the upside down. So, and then he kind of being in that environment, he turns into Vecna, kind of like how Billy turned into the Mind Flayer in season 3. So that makes me wonder, why was it stuck in 1983? If the very first gate was opened in 1979, it's theoretically making the upside down in 1979.
Hasn't been explained yet, man.
I hope they explain it.
I don't know. But that's a good question to ask for part 2.
So, and how is Brenner alive? How the fuck is Brenner alive? But
I really don't think we're going to get an explanation to that. I don't think we really need one to that.
I think
it's not needed. Like,
it doesn't. It's not. Okay, listen. If we didn't have the context of season 1, it would be fine. But we know that he gets killed by the Demogorgon.
It's never shown that he's killed. It's just showing the Demogorgon on top of him.
It's such a cop out, Yeah,
I know.
If they do that,
But again, it's a show. They can retcon what they want to retcon.
Oh yeah, we all know that all too well with certain other shows.
All right, so let's move on to another part of this. So we got breakout candidates for this season. So I'm going to go through some of them. So we got Angela, the fucking bitch. We got Jason, the classic jock, but has satanic panic. Let's see, Eddie, the D&D master DM. Argyle, the stoner friend of Jonathan's. Erica, Luke's badass scene-stealing sister. One, a.k.a. Vecna.
Okay.
Yuri, a Russian scumbag.
Yeah.
And Antonov, nicer Russian guard.
I think you're crazy if you don't say Eddie's the best kind of breakout character of season 4.
We didn't really talk about him that much.
I know, but he's so likable. Yeah. And he is kind of central to the Hawkins storyline, where he's the first person to see Chrissy, whatever the fuck her name is, die.
Yes.
So he's the first one to get
like the inciting incident kind of guy.
Yeah. And he's kind of along for the ride, and he's kind of like an honorary member of the gang now. And it only took him 2 episodes. So
yeah, he's very likable.
Yeah.
I would say he's definitely in the running, but I mean, Vecna's kind of up there, man. You gotta say,
I do.
The build up to that was really well done this season, making one in Vecna. It may have been a little stretched, but I think the payoff was kind of worth it so far.
Yeah, they did a good job, because it's kind of how I want, I'm writing a story, and I won't spoil any too much, but I want to write a story where it has multiple characters that end up being the same character. They did this with 3 different characters. They did with Vecna, the orderly, and Victor Krill's kid. And so I bought all 3 of them were different characters the entire time, and that's just amazing how they did that. So
yeah, it's great storytelling.
I still think Eddie's more likable though.
Well, obviously he's supposed to be more likable. Then I think there are some others here too. I mean, Argyle, comedic relief, fantastic.
Argyle's fucking great, but he holds no weight to the story.
Exactly, but he's just kind of there. And then Erica, I think Erica is also great. She's not really there much, but I think she should be. She should definitely be in the show more.
Well, she was in season 3. She was a big storyline in season 3 with the Russians and Dustin and Steve and Robin.
But I think this season she definitely kind of broke out a little more than what she was already there.
I mean, I know she has less material to do in season 4. But her quips are just as good as season 3, if not better. And she has that whole thing in the first episode where she's brought on to the D&D campaign.
Yeah.
And that whole scene again kind of establishes Eddie's characters the likable. I said the lunch scene was great, but even the scene with him and Chrissy in the woods, and then but that whole kind of climactic scene in episode 1 where it's the basketball game and the D&D game, and he's the DM, and so I thought it really fleshed out his character, and he's a really good character, man. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene? Because I know I already talked about my favorite scene.
My favorite, it's the same thing.
Good. So we have the same favorite scene. It was just really great all around. That was the best episode. It still is the best episode of the season. Maybe even of Stranger Things, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the whole run up the hill, come on, Tosh, it's just fucking great song, and great cinematography, and the whole thing.
Episode 7 was good. The second half of the episode, it was a little long.
Well, actually, see, I'm changing my mind. I think the best scene or sequence would be the reveal of Vecna. I think that's my favorite. Monologue? The very long monologue and kind of going back to the backstory. I think the best episode altogether is Dear Billy, though. Mm-hmm. I think that's where I stand. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to sit with it a little more, but I'm still going with just episode 4 in general.
Yeah.
So we have some questions for Volume 2 when it comes out on July 1st. So we got where's that Eddie guitar scene from the trailer? Is that just a trailer scene? Because I want to see him playing a guitar in the Upside Down. That would be dope as shit.
I said this in the trailer reaction. I hate that. Like it looked like a Mad Max Fury Road, like doof. I think his name is Doof Man or something like that. I don't know. He was playing guitar. I thought it took me right out of the movie when I watched it then, and I think it's going to be just as jarring in this show if they do that. So I'm glad that they didn't include it in part 1 at least.
Do you have a question for part 2 coming up? Like question you want to answer besides Brenner being alive?
I just want to know what the deal is with the 1983 thing and when the gates made in 1979. That's all.
That's very cool how the Upside Down is stuck in 1983.
Maybe that's like when the first thing from the Upside Down went into the real world, and that's where it happened because of the Demogorgon. But
I feel like that has to be explained. I don't think they can't go without explaining that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Another one I have is I want them to kind of explain that lost sister from season 2.
Oh yeah, bringing her back.
Kaylee, whatever her name was. I'd like to see not necessarily her show up, but at least explain a little more about that, because like she's just kind of out there just doing her thing.
And also something I noticed was that she has so in this season we saw a couple other kids and one, they all have the telekinesis powers. But Callie,
whatever you want to call her,
she has illusion powers, so it's different from that. So is that an idea that they just scrapped, or like is she special too, or whatever? I don't know.
I don't know. See, that's the thing I want explained. Like, what's going on with her? Like, and
remember, we got another season after this.
We do, but I think it'd be too far removed at that point. Like, we're already 2 seasons removed from that episode. So, like, if you want to stretch it even more, it would probably be more relevant to keep it now than later. Like another year and a half from now when the 5th season will come out.
Yeah, so, I honestly would be fine if they just wiped her character out.
Yeah.
They just didn't address it, but they mentioned her really briefly in this season though. So,
and I think Hop has to have one hell of a storyline to make it worth it for me this season. As I've said, it's the worst storyline in this season so far. Is Hopper, Joyce, and Murray.
Yeah, I mean they were the weakest last season too, I think.
So they got to find something to do, something either heroic or some way to make them feel included in this season, because it's just
I mean, well, the show has always been about the kids, and that's always been the most interesting part. I mean, they do this every season where they have different storylines and then they bring them all together at the end. I think they can do it. I'd love to see a reunion with Hopper and Elle. Love to see a reunion with Jonathan, Will, and Joyce. See them again. So
what if Hopper gets killed before he even sees Elle? So he actually gets killed off too.
Maximum kind of traumatic factors. Elle just sees him and then he dies. Like right when they meet eyes, he gets stabbed or something. Perfect. And tragic.
Make her tragic storyline even more tragic.
And that's when she unlocks her powers for the final time, right? That's how they would. Ooh. That's how they would do it. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. Well, I think we're running a little low on time here. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good. I said everything I want to say. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're Seen It Before. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok with the handle at Seen It Beforecast. That's SCENE, It Beforecast, and on Twitter with the handle at SIB_pod. I'm Dan.
I'm Danny. You can find me on Instagram at Danny_Was, my letterboxd at DJ Was, or my YouTube channel, which is just Danny Was. This is something new. We've only done this a couple other times before. with like Book of Boba Fett and stuff.
And Mandalorian season 2.
I mean, well, that was a fun episode to do.
That was a
with
fun episode.
But we brought all our guests in. But yeah, pay attention to the socials and for the next movies that are coming out. So
we'll do something for the last 4 hours of Stranger Things Volume 2 as well. So probably sometime first week of July, you'll have an episode out on that too. So,
yeah.
But till then, I guess we'll see you next time. It's been an honor.